back with my shark suit. Hope you guys enjoyed the new intro. That is from the movie Jaws. It's the theme song from Jaws. So if you guys don't know that movie, your parents definitely will. And it's probably, if you watch it now, you'd think it's kind of corny, but it was like terrifying when it came out. Based, of course, on a shark attack. So thanks for everyone who voted to have the shark costume back this week. I'm glad it was so popular. It's been great seeing your word work that you've been doing, and I really appreciate all the learning you're doing during this time, so keep it up. So this week was actually going to be, I think, if not our last week, our second to last week, but I think our last with suffixes. And then we're going to move on to something I'm really excited about, but I'm not going to tell you yet what that is. So before I get started, I just want to tell you this week I'm going to use the word generally or often a lot. So I might say the rule is that generally blah, 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 blah. That's because the sort we're doing and the suffix we're doing today is very, very common. It comes up a lot in English, but the rules, there are going to be times when the rules don't always apply. And that's because English is a really complicated language and there's always times when the rules don't apply. So when I say generally, it doesn't mean that you have to worry about knowing the rules that the ones that break the rules right now, but it just means like don't be surprised if sometime you come across a word that doesn't exactly fit this rule. But for now, just worry about the rule. So today we're going to start with the suffix that makes it sound shun or shin. So there's a ton of words, like I said, in the English language that follow this suffix. Now, a lot of times it's going to be I-O-N, but it's also going to be I-A-N. So when we do the sort today, you'll see those two different spelling patterns. The suffix today is based on the sound it makes, the shin and the shun sound. So what I'd like you to focus on first is two major rules. Now I'm going to zoom in so you can go ahead and see what these rules are. They're at the top of our sort. So if you look here, the two major rules are this. One, if a word ends in SS, like confess, discuss, or express, you're going to add the ending I-O-N, shun. If a word ends in CT, you're going to add the ending I-O-N as well. And then if a word ends in IC, like magic, electric, or music, you're going to add the ending IAN. So before we go and actually look more at those words, I want to go through what this ending does. So the ending IAN or ION refers to an action or a process that is the result of an action. I don't expect you to know what that means right now because honestly, when I was reading through this lesson, I got stuck and I was like, what are they talking about? But by the time we get to the end, it's going to make a lot of sense. So the result of doing something is what shun or shin actually does to the word. Most of these words up here are verbs. So this ending generally takes a verb, an action word, and turns it into a noun, which is a person, place, or thing. So think about that as we're going through this. How do these endings change the type of word we have? And then think when we get to the end, we're going to talk back through how these endings mean it is a result of an action. All right, so let's get started. What I've got here, you guys, is all these different words. And you'll go ahead and be able to see that they've got the different endings and they have the different ways that they end. So just look at them for a second and see if you can start to kind of almost sound out to yourself what these words would become. Following the rule, for instance, confess will become confession. Look at these a little bit more, see if you can go through a few more. I'll give you about 20 seconds to try to pick a few to do on your own. All right, let's go through. Select becomes, you should be literally saying these out loud. Selection. Magic becomes magician. I really would love, like I'm doing, when I'm pausing and flipping the words, say what you're expecting it to become. Discuss becomes discussion. Express, expression. Protect, protection. Collect, collection. Electric, electrician. Nothing in the spelling there changed. It's a long word. Electrician, 4 syllables, but you can just see the ending is added. Music, musician. Awesome, guys. So these are just some examples of words that commonly fit into these patterns. But like I said, there are tons of words that follow this in the English language. So the first thing I want you to look at is, what do you notice about words with the CT and SS endings, especially around the sound? So let's start with the CT endings. Selection. If I say that slowly, selection, selection. 3 syllables. It breaks up. 1 syllable is partway through select. The next syllable ends at the end of select. And then shun is its own syllable. What you notice here is that the shun sound is really that. It's like shun, as in, there's a word in the English language, to shun means to like blow someone off, to be like, ugh, to ignore them. So you really hear the shun sound with the I-O-N. What's also important is that you actually hear the whole word here almost end kind of harshly. Selection. Notice how that changes, how I say selection. Protection. Of course, we speak faster than that, but think about it. What do you have for your protection in the heat? You heard the whole word protect, and it's really different from the ending there. Collection, collection. And you hear me using that shun again at the end. Now when we go to the SS, it has the exact same spelling, but listen to how it changes the words. Confession, discussion, expression. This ending, guys, because it ends with an S already, it blends really easily when we say it into the shun sound. Confession. Even if I say it slowly, confession. It's hard in your ear to break up where the word confess ends and where the ending, the suffix, starts. So that's a really key difference between these two. When the CT words get the I-O-N ending, we pronounce them differently. We still hear the concrete base word with the ending added on, and it sounds like shun. And here we still hear the shun sound, confession, but it blends together much more. Discussion. And that's because the ending of the word already had an S. Last thing to think about is these words that are over here with the I-A-N. So these I-A-N words, magician, electrician, musician. Did anybody hear the difference between a word like musician and discussion? It's really tough. I'm gonna say them slow. Musician, think about the ending, the suffix, musician. Discussion. Even though we're using the same suffix, they're actually pronounced pretty differently. So for any of these I-A-N endings, the ending actually turns almost more to shin, as if like the front of your leg, your shin. Versus if you remember these two, the I-O-N is like shun. So those are a key difference that's really important to remember with the pronunciation of these different words and their endings. All right, the last thing we'll talk about, and then I'll let you guys get started on this on your own. You're gonna find tons of these words. And if anyone remembers, what I said at the beginning was these words mean the result of an action. Okay, so pause a second. We said a lot of them are verbs already. So a lot of them mean the result of whatever the base word is. So let's look for a minute at collection. Okay, so our base word is collect. Oh, sorry guys, I'll zoom in again. Collection. Our base word is collect. And so pause for a second. Collect means to gather things. What type of speech is it? It's a verb, an action word. So if you think, what is the result? What happens when you collect things? You get a collection. So does that start to make a little bit more sense? Our base word was collect. Collect means to gather things. If I go and collect things, I am left with a collection. The result of me collecting gives me a collection of things. Now that starts to make a lot more sense to me. And the word collection, what type of speech is that? A collection, it's a thing, so it's a noun. Awesome, guys. Let's do one more just to make sure you get this. Let's look at the word discussion. Discussion. So now the base word is discuss. Discuss means to talk about something. We know that discuss, to discuss, is a verb. Now, what's the result? What happens when I talk about something? I have a discussion. The result of me discussing is that I have a discussion. The result of you confessing is that you give a confession. Those are now nouns. The result of me selecting just a few things means in the end I have a selection. The result of me protecting someone means I have given them protection. Okay? So a little bit tricky when we were talking about it without examples, but now when you start to see them and kind of talk through them all, it should make a lot more sense. So I hope you guys really enjoyed your last suffix work for a while. Next week, we're going to come back and do something really cool that is going to help you guys a lot in middle school and actually into high school and college even. So last suffix work for now. Can't wait to see your word work. If you have any questions, let me or your teacher know, and I will see you next week.